Good Sunday morning to you. Well, I'm not happy with the way this little dinky little stand works. First of all, it won't stand up like this, so it just lays on here like that. See? So it's not, you can't get it to stay that way. I mean, it's ridiculous, you know. It's totally ridiculous. So I'm going to try to make something up. And hope it'll work. I got this 1/8" brass rod here. This is left over from the head mechanism and eye mechanism in Uncle Dorkel's project, and this was already bent in a horseshoe shape for another project on that thing, but decided not to use this, so I'm going to use this to make the holder for this. Alright, my intention is to bend this smaller so that this piece will not turn. In other words, bend this part here so that it's this close together up here, if you get my drift. So in other words, when it sits, it's going to sit just like this. It's not going to do one of these lay down things. So what I got to do first is to bend this. I can do it in the vise, but I might be able to do it right here without having to go to the main shop, the shed I should say. Nothing like Mickey Mouse and things, eh? Yeah, that's got a ways to go. Alright. I'm gonna put it in the vise. I'll be back. Okay, this is the general idea of it. It's narrow enough that it fits the skinny part behind the head. So in other words, you can't get the head out. So I'm going to bend this over in such a way that when I slip this in, it slips in like this. It goes down right in the skinny part right here. So down at the bottom here is the distance I want this to be. So now what I got to do is to bend this over so that these two face down like this and go to a board which will be mounted, will be laying on the bench, and I can move it around. Okay, my jury rig here. So this is going to sit on a board. You drop the iron in like that. It's not going to turn because this is holding it in from turning sideways. So this is going to be sitting like this. You just drop it in like that, and it holds it upright. Unlike this thing, you can't keep it upright. So that's all there is to that. So the next step is to mount this into the board. And what I want to do is to bring these feet out these legs out a little bit to give it some stability without upsetting this. And I got to do a little jockeying around on this. You know, playing around with it to get the spacing just right, because it has to be big enough to accept this head, but it also has to hold the sides from turning. That's the whole idea of it. It's not going to pull out. If you see that, how that is, it's not going to pull out. So, I got this piece of wood here, and then I've got another piece of wood here. Don't really matter, I guess. I could use either one. They're the same half-inch thickness. So what I got to do is to bring these legs out, and just make sure it's not too low. I could come down a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, I think. Time I bend these out a little bit. I'll do that off camera, and I'll come back in a minute here. So I got the one leg is a hair longer than the other, but I can trim it off with the bolt cutter. Alright, so all I got to do is drill 2 1/8 inch holes down into the wood, and that'll hold it. So we're going to trim that off, and we'll come back in a minute here. Okay, all done. Nothing simple, nothing complicated, I should say. It's quite simple. 2 3/8 inch holes, 1/8 inch brass rod, which I got at my hardware store from when I was working on Uncle Dorkel. And it just sits in there like that, and it doesn't turn over. You just drop it in there. You just got to juggle around when you make this up. You know, you got to pull it out so that it clears the head when it goes in here, but by the same token, it keeps it from turning sideways. See, sits right in there. You just drop it right in, and it doesn't touch the board. Old 64 goats jury rig. Alright, so that's all it is. This just happens to be a piece of brass rod that I had on hand. I think this is brazing rod that I got at my hardware store. And it's very tough and kind of hard to bend. But as you see, you just bend it in a very tight horseshoe shape. So your soldering iron will fit in like this. Your de-soldering, I should say. And it won't sink out too much. It will pull, unlike this here, this is very thin and it wouldn't sink it out too much. This will probably sink it a little bit. Now take the heat away, in other words. But primarily this is used if you're done for the day, and then you just drop it in here. Okay, and see how this stands up? That's all there is to it. Thanks for watching.